How's it going, guys? Welcome into Rover Sports. Today, the Seattle Seahawks made a really dumb decision. They signed Russell Wilson to $35 million a year, 140 over 4 years. I'm not here to tell you that Russell Wilson is not a good quarterback. I'm here to tell you that teams need to be complete on both sides of the football. And when you look at the playoffs last year, the teams that were in the playoffs were the Chicago Bears. They have Mitchell Trubisky on a rookie contract. Jared Goff, Dak Prescott. Drew Brees is older. His contract isn't as absurd as it was. This Seattle contract is exactly what Drew Brees was like with the New Orleans Saints. And if Seattle would have had a quarterback on its rookie deal, Seattle would have been able to contend. They would have been able to rebuild their roster, which has average talent, average linebackers. They only have Frank Clark on defense that could get to the quarterback. They need safeties. They need cornerbacks. They have coaches that are leaving. This isn't that good of a Seattle football team. Seattle managed to run the football better. Their offensive line played better. Wilson did win some games with Doug Baldwin. But was Seattle really a threat to the Rams? Was Seattle a threat to the New Orleans Saints? Were the Seattle Seahawks ready last year to go out and win a championship? And I think the answer to that is an absolute no. So Seattle wasn't in shape to win a championship. They now signed Russell Wilson. Everybody looks at each deal in a vacuum. And if Seattle would have been able to leave Russell Wilson, then Seattle would have been able to contend. Seattle now is going to be middling in purgatory for a very, very long time. Their entire roster is not going to be good, and if Russell Wilson gets hurt, they're still going to suck anyway. So it was a terrible decision by Seattle to sign Russell Wilson. Losing and doing what the Miami Dolphins are doing isn't exactly the worst thing in the world. It's actually the way to build. The way to win Super Bowl championships is to have really good quarterbacks that are really, really young. Look at Kansas City. Look at the Eagles with Carson Wentz and a combination of a cheap, very good veteran quarterback and Nick Foles. Look at Case Keenum and the Minnesota Vikings. The way to win in this league is to have a cheap quarterback. Tom Brady takes pay cuts every year. You had Kansas City. Lamar Jackson had a stacked team around him. Baker Mayfield now has a stacked team around him. The reason why the Ravens were so good in so many areas is because their quarterback is so damn cheap. So cheap. The reason why Chicago is so good is because Mitchell Trubisky is so cheap. But really, Seattle was cowardly. Russell Wilson bullied them. Russell Wilson's now laughing in bed with Sierra. He probably is not even that excited to go play football with his mediocre team. Now, the general manager has no flexibility, can't really do anything. Meanwhile, San Francisco's paying a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo $7 million less a year. They were smart. They signed Garoppolo before Garoppolo actually did anything of substantial value. They were geniuses in that they signed him quickly. So that they signed Garoppolo before Garoppolo balled out. Because if they didn't sign him and Garoppolo balls out, then he's going to then hit the open market, and San Francisco's not going to be able to afford him, or Garoppolo's going to have them at King's ransom. So you have to project when you're signing quarterbacks. It's almost why the Eagles should try to sign Carson Wentz while he's hurt right now, while his future's in question, because Carson Wentz has never started a playoff game before. So that's why when you look at that situation, it might make sense for the Eagles to try to get Carson Wentz's contract figured out already. But This Seattle deal is an absolutely terrible, terrible deal. It's horrible. It's disgusting. I like Russell Wilson as a player, but $35 million for a shitty roster already? It's not even like Seattle has like Saquon Barkley like the Giants have, and Evan Ingram and freaking Sterling Shepard and a good offensive line. You know, they don't even have that good of an offensive line. Their coach is the oldest coach in the NFL who's kind of lost his luster. Their defense is pretty much average. Their defense is just terrible. Frank Clark's probably not even going to be affordable now. So even with Russell Wilson, the Seahawks are going to suck. They're going to get like 5 or 6 wins every single year, like 7 wins. So if you're Seattle fans, kiss the playoffs goodbye. Kiss winning anything goodbye. You are now stuck in the shit. If you're 8-8 or 4-12, what's the difference? You're not even playing playoff football. What's the difference between 4-12 and 8-8? Maybe less ridicule from people, but the 4-12 team's going to have a better draft pick. They're going to get better young talent eventually. Eventually, they'll hit like the Cleveland Browns hit with Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb and those guys, you know, and Myles Garrett. Eventually, you're going to hit. But if you're always average, you're Detroit. You're the new Lions. So congrats on being the Lions. If that's what you want to be, that's what you are. So you can celebrate Russell Wilson all you want and player empowerment and everything. But if you want to be mediocre, go ahead and be mediocre. The way to win, and if I was a general manager, I would rent quarterbacks for about 5 years, very good quarterbacks. And unless like I maybe had a Tua Tagovailoa, like a Jimmy Garoppolo, a Patrick Mahomes, a one in a lifetime, Patrick Mahomes might have to get paid because he's one in a lifetime. Russell Wilson is a notch below. Russell Wilson is a Hall of Fame quarterback, yes. He's accomplished great things. He's a really good improviser. He's a very good quarterback. But he's not a complete Hall of Fame Brett Favrean top 10 player that Mahomes is like. He's not another Tom Brady like a Jimmy Garoppolo can be or like a Tua Tagovailoa could be. I look at Russell Wilson as a solid top 7 quarterback in the NFL, top 6, top 5. Right outside the top 5. Very, very, very good quarterback. Very good Hall of Fame quarterback. Awesome player. But not a freaking ridiculous changes the game type of football player. That's what Mahomes is. So in those very rare cases that you have a Mahomes, you have a Tagovailoa, you maybe have like Andrew Luck when he's healthy, then that decision gets harder. So for the Chiefs to like let go of Mahomes would be really, really hard because Mahomes could single-handedly bring them championships. You know, Russell Wilson, when he was winning championships, it was because of that defense. It was because of Richard Sherman. It was because of Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas, Bobby Wagner, Bruce Irvin, Marshawn Lynch, Percy Harvin, that team. Doug Baldwin on that team, Golden Tate. That team was absolutely loaded when they won the championships. Even they were so good that a 7th rounder won a Super Bowl MVP, and I don't even know the answer to who won that Super Bowl MVP in 2013. I forget. So, point is that I hate this move for Seattle. I hate it so much, and I think Seattle is going to be a really average team, and they should have just bottomed out because they're in purgatory. They let go of Russell Wilson. They suck for a year. They let go of every contract, and then their GM gets to start over. But it's because Pete Carroll's too old. It's because Seattle's afraid of people laughing at them that they're actually not brave. The best general managers are the ones that are brave, that make tough decisions, like a Dave Gettleman trading an Odell Beckham. Like, those are the best general managers that actually make risky, tough choices, like Mike Mayock is doing right now, circling this roster, like John Lynch, who's aggressive, who's really aggressive, and who signed his quarterback brilliantly. And that Garoppolo contract is looking more brilliant and brilliant by the day. So those are my thoughts on Russ Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks.